So I decided to take a mental health break yesterday following yet another Game 7 loss for the Maple against Brad Marchand. Brad Marchand has now more Game 7 wins against the Leafs than majority of the teams in the NHL. So we're going to go back into MMA news, and I got to talk about John Jones. I didn't really make a video on the motorcycle video, but we're going to look at it. I haven't made a video on what Jones has done lately. And as much as a John Jones fan, I am. I'm done. I'm done. Either fight or give up the belt. Like, this is the current heavyweight champion. I need to make sure my volume's not up. This is the current heavyweight champion of the UFC. And I know that all of you have seen this video already.
Comando Johnson.
So, on my command, my team has global.
Why is he sniffing his hair like that? I mean, like, okay, let's be honest. Boys, when you're around the boys, you do a lot of stuff. You do a lot of stuff for the bit. Maybe this is just John Jones, being one of the boys. But it does not help the recent findings that the MMA Guru has put out over the past year. And then you want, okay, like, look, I don't care if, speaking of Guru, who's alive, I don't care if John swings one way or the other. His sexuality is not what interests me, it's his ability in the cage. Well, what the hell is this? Why is he's not just sniffing his hair? Oh, like, over the chest, but you know what? Safety. Being safe, you gotta hold on to the person in front of you. I get that. I'm like, you can barely see it. Probably it's the OBS. But his eyes look, it doesn't even look like he's there. Like, I don't even know how to explain it. Like, it's a different kind of intensity from his eyes. And then why does he go in there for a big whiff? This is the heavyweight champion of the UFC, who was last seen beating up Stipe, a retired Stipe. And I was one of the ones saying, hey, this fight could be competitive. I just realized that my mic is, or my camera is way off, whatever. Doesn't matter. What the fuck are you doing? This is at a time where, yeah, we had a lot of big fights announced. We had International Fight Week. We have movement in the middleweight division. The heavyweight division is fucking dead. It's fucking dead. And he's holding it so aggressively, too.
So, on my command, my team has global.
Okay, so you can either look at this as, John Jones is having the time of his life, in Thailand. Really helps the narrative. But when everybody's waiting for your fight to be announced, waiting for Tom Aspinall to get the chance that he rightfully deserves, and then he posts this fucking video, which I make my video, everybody was up in arms about this. Obviously, I can't play the sound. So why can't we be friends? Copyright, you know how it is. But everybody was going off in the comments. Let's hear. The comments are better now, I think. But yeah, a grown man carrying another grown man. Imagine being a 30-year-old man getting picked up like that. First of all, he's not 30. I believe I believe Hashboy is around my age actually. He's early 20s. At least that's what I heard. Uh, well, this is great. Yeah, the Mike Tyson clip there because Mike Tyson did the exact same thing to Hashboy, but he didn't know, right? Um, handled it better than Tyson. But come on, give us, yeah. Okay, John, that's fun. When are you fighting Tom? Which is exactly the point of the video. I wanted to go down here because there were some funny ones. I don't know where they went. Um, that's a 20-some-year-old man. Okay, like, at this point, whatever John Jones does, and for reason, it will be criticized. You know, unless it's, hey, I'm fighting on this day. I'm fighting MSG. If he made that video, you know, you'd still get the hate, obviously. But why is he doing this? Why is Joan Jones in Thailand? And then you got this video that came out where I couldn't find the video, but he was saying to somebody on the phone, "Oh, I'm done," and it clarified that, which majority of people think he is done. Majority of people think that the Arsenal fight will not happen. And this is something they need to solve this year. At this point, it seems as though the UFC heavyweight champion is just playing the game and attempting to troll the fan base. Ever since UFC 309 win over Stipe last November, John Jones has been hounded by the UFC fan base to unify the title against the interim champion Tom Aspinall. After continuing to delay the fight, Jones has been accused of mentally exhausting Aspinall by his former opponent Anthony Smith. During his time out of the octagon, Jones is currently in Thailand once again, where he is filming a Russian reality TV series with Nate Diaz, basically Russian Ultimate Fighter. Why? Who knows? They could have done John Jones versus Tom Aspinall for this season of The Ultimate Fighter instead of DC and Chael Sonnen. I have nothing against DC and Chael Sonnen. They are inspirations to me. But why not make John Jones versus Tom Aspinall Ultimate Fighter if he's already doing it for a Russian organization? Or Thailand, yeah, I think it's a Russian, I have no clue. While still in Thailand, Jones has been seen meeting up with Hezbollah, which we just went through that video, which has, of course, frustrated the UFC fan base even further as there continues to be no news regarding his next fight. And despite Dana White's guarantee that Jones will fight this year, the consensus greatest of all time, burp. There we go. Then dropped a huge hint about his UFC retirement after he told an old teammate, "I'm done," during a FaceTime call that was caught on camera. Bones' comments came just hours after he stated that he's told the UFC about his plans, which was the post he made before. I couldn't find it, questioning why they haven't made fans aware yet. Which makes sense because They didn't announce International Fight Week until a few days ago. They didn't announce all these major fights. Can that be mainly because of the TV rights deal? That's kind of what I think. But another one is we get no fucking promotion. YouTubers are the promotion for the UFC. The UFC is MMA at this point. However, now just hours after claiming he is done, the 37-year-old champion has attempted to ease fans' fears that he is retiring with a message on social media. What I feel like returning to the UFC after some much needed downtime, Jones said, whilst reposting a video of a dog chasing other dogs out on the yard. Um, when could we get John Jones? They say UFC no chance. Actually, you know what? Why not? We're gonna read it. With Jones now hinting that he will return to the UFC despite claiming I'm done, there's only one date that makes more sense for the title unification. The promotion has an X4 pay-per-view main event already scheduled, and the September pay-per-view event is scheduled to be UFC Noche, also known as UFC 320, which takes place in Guadalajara. Rumors have been circulating that the UFC's October pay-per-view will take place in Abu Dhabi, which Jones is extremely unlikely to happen. I don't see Jones ever fighting in Abu Dhabi unless they throw a major bag at him, which is why we are in this predicament. That leaves November as the most likely at MSG. We all knew the two dates this fight can go down is International Fight Weekend potentially or MSG. Those are the only two dates that I feel we will get somebody on the level of John Jones. But again, you're supposed to be getting ready for this fight. You're supposed to be hyping the fans up. This is the greatest fighter of all time returning. And how can you not look at his run at heavyweight and not think it's been a waste? I am one of the biggest John Jones fans you will find. I grew up watching the sport. You know, when I started watching, John Jones became the champion. And now I'm continuing to watch into my 20s, and John Jones is still at the top, even though he's not doing anything. But, like, KO Stipe Miocic hit him with a spinning back kick, which he did not develop a spinning back kick at 36. The spinning back kick is one of the core moves that John Jones has had his entire career. You know, I never went back and touched on that Taforia episode where Joe Rogan said all those things. He went up and submitted Cyril Gahn, which I expected him to probably submit Cyril Gahn, not the way that he did. You know, it looked like Cyril Gahn gave up instantly, but he had, a 40 pound man sitting on his neck. Then you get to the Dominic Reyes fight, which is the reason people are angry. People have recency bias. A lot of the fans that are around now weren't fans of the sport when John Jones came up. And the Dominic Reyes fight is their most notable fight about him, where he looked awful. He was running away. He did the absolute bare minimum to keep competitive, and he walked away with the luckiest decision of all time. You know, watching the fight, I thought Dominic Reyes won. When I went back and rewatched it, like, this fight is closer than a lot of people will make it out to believe, but Dominic Reyes still won this fight. Then you had the Thiago Santos fight, which was a split decision, where Thiago Santos only had one knee, and John Jones was barely able to come back in that fight in the last 3 rounds. Anthony Smith, he went to a unanimous decision with Anthony Smith, who was on a good run then. Look at where Anthony Smith ended up. Gustafsson, the rematch years later, the infamous fight which we'll get to, KO'd in round 3. But you had the pictograms from the DC fight, where if that fight would have stayed on Jones' record, if he didn't pop for this fight, if he didn't pop for the 2016 fight, this win stays on his record. We have a much different conversation here. Beat Dan Henderson in grappling. Beat OSP for the interim belt after he returned from being stripped. Beat Daniel Cormier the first time at UFC 182. One of the best fights ever. Go over to Gustafsson the first time. Chael, Vitor, Rashad, Lyoto Machida, Rampage Jackson, Mauricio Shogun. His legacy is already written. Well, whether you're the biggest Jones fan or not, he retires. None of these wins change. No matter how much you want the Raiders fight to be overturned, he beat all these guys, and then he moves to heavyweight. He takes 3 years off, which John Jones never fucking needed the 3 years. John Jones could have walked in the heavyweight maybe a year tops, and I think he would have had the exact same success. I think his moveset would have translated over better. And then in the Stipe fight, what did he do? He came in later. The fact that he tore his pec here makes it difficult. The fact that, okay, he gets injured. Aspinall wants to step in. Stipe doesn't want to fight Aspinall. He only wants to fight for the title. Which, when you look at how the UFC treated Stipe, I completely understood why Stipe didn't get in there. And I think I don't think anybody had an issue with Stipe in this situation. It's just that the guy who was there, the guy who stepped in, took out who was the scariest guy at the time, in Pavlovich. I thought Pavlovich was going to win this fight. Now, recently, Pavlovich has struggled. He just had that fight with Rosenstrike, but, nothing to note there. But first down KO Blades, first down Pavlovich, first down Tabura. He had the knee injury in the first Blades fight. Submitted Volkov in the first round. Spivak TKO'd. Arlovsky TKO'd in the second round. I think Arlovsky is the only fighter in the UFC to take Aspinall into the second round. The guy who was the heavyweight champion when I was born, Alan Baldock, first round TKO, first round TKO. And Cage Warriors, first round. Illegal strike submitted by Hero. We haven't seen Tom Aspinall in nearly a year. Tom Aspinall could be on his second title defense. He defended the interim title, which he's not the first person to do it. Rafael Sunsel, I think, did it. There were, I'm thinking, there have been other fighters especially in the history, in the early days of the UFC. We've seen fighters defend an interim belt. But when you have a guy like Tom Aspinall, who the only comparable record is Francis Ngannou. You know, the guy that John Jones sat out 3 years for. I kind of think that, you know, everybody will say, say for sure that was Jones' plan. I'm not going to say that was John Jones' idea to wait out Francis so that he would leave. I don't think he knew what was going on. You know, and ultimately, that situation was about Francis Ngannou making the best decision for Francis, which was to go on and do the boxing and make the money he did. Now, another situation we're not going to get into. How can you not look at John Jones coming up in 2023 and not at the least be disappointed in, you know, how it's gone? We've been waiting years for this. I would say back, Daniel Cormier, Glover Teixeira, 14, 15. We were talking about him going up and fighting Cain Velasquez. Cain Velasquez, I thought, was a really interesting fight for John Jones. I thought DC at heavyweight was an interesting fight for John Jones. But he came out and said, I would never give DC an advantage. That's. Yeah, I want to see if I can get the heavyweight rankings. Uh, Rankings. Now, might make more sense to go down here. Let's see. Costume. Oh, whatever. I'm just gonna search it up. UFC heavyweight rankings. Because Thomas being robbed of what could be his own legendary title run and being the greatest heavyweight. Like, I have no doubt in my mind he is going to surpass Stipe Miocic. And I'm a big Stipe fan. Stipe is one of my favorite fighters. But I mean, even Tapology has Tom number one in the division. Again, that fight was due to injury. Basically, 7 fights in a row. Every fight by finish. You have Volkov. Aspinall submitted. But would be a very interesting fight for John Jones. A guy that has, 7 feet tall. Has the reach to give John Jones issues. The biggest. Okay, the whole thing with reach. Reach is an advantage in, combat sports. But I feel like people put way too much on reach than they should. Sean Woodson, for example. You got Volkov would be an interesting fight. He ran through Shogun. Curtis Blades. I know that he's trained with Blades for a bit. Blades a really good wrestler, really powerful. That would have been an excellent test for John Jones. Pavlovich, before losing to Tom and losing to Volkov, looked like a monster. Again, all those first round knockouts, like Francis Ngannou, like Tom Aspinall. Jonathan Almeida. Well, my opinion, John Jones versus Jonathan Almeida is the second most interesting fight for him at heavyweight. He just TKO'd Spivak, submitted Romanov. He got TKO'd by Blades, but TKO'd Derek Lewis, submitted Rosenstruck, TKO'd Jamil, I'm not gonna try and say his last name, Anton Takashi. We know we're not gonna get the Francis fight. Dana White's better. Spivak, I think John would beat him easily. Tabora, I don't see making it to a title fight. Shamil Gaziev, though. Who, yeah, got killed by Rosenstrike. Gaziev is scary, man. Coming out for a knockout against Thomas Peterson. He's definitely got him looking out for in this division. Derek Lewis, when Derek Lewis had his height, maybe it would have been interesting, but getting killed by Tuivasa, Pavlovich, submitted by Spivak. There's only one where it was against Marco Slima and Rodrigo Nascimento. Derek's done. Derek, fan favorite. One of the greatest Instagram accounts to follow. He's now fighting John. Vadim Nemkov. These guys aren't really in the UFC. Waldo Cortez Acosta, he's fighting Spivak, Rosenstrike. But honestly, at heavyweight, the best heavyweights are yet to break it. Renan Ferreira, I feel like Renan Ferreira, um, we'll see what will happen with Peacock Pro. We'll see what happened there. But look at how dead this division is. 3 fights in 5 years, namely 6 years. Tom Aspinall having to sit out all half of 2024. We're already halfway done 2025. And he doesn't have to wait until November at the minimum. The UFC needs to grow balls. The UFC needs to make it clear to John Jones, to Tom Aspinall, to the fans, this fight is done. If it's done, MSG, come out and say it. Having fucking, 2 months to hype up a fight, not announcing an international fight week until you absolutely have to, until the pay-per-views are all the way down, until the viewership across all of MMA is fucking abysmal. I'm done. John Jones is one of, if not my favorite fighter of all time. I've been waiting years to see him fight at heavyweight. Fight at heavyweight. Not be at heavyweight. Fight at heavyweight. And the UFC needs to fucking grow some balls and force these fighters to fight. It's supposed to be you're offered 2 fights a year. It's supposed to be the best fight, the best. But you're only going to get these fights done until, viewership is completely dead. Go look at the pay-per-view numbers. But, I'm done. I've nearly been ranting for 30 minutes. But we have to. Hundreds of videos have been made about John Jones over the last decade. Hundreds more are going to be made. This is John Jones' opportunity to get in the cage, go against the toughest fight in his career, and silence all the haters. Everybody thinks this guy is going to take your success. Everybody thinks that Tom Aspinall is capable of exceeding what you've done. Give him that shot. But don't let him have it. Go out there. Beat the guy who's supposed to surpass you. After that, you can go out. You can go to Thailand. You can go to Amsterdam. You can go to North fucking Korea for all I care about. Give Tom Aspinall a shot. But let me know. I know this has been a long video, but I needed to rant. You know, I just had my heart broken once again Sunday. I need to bitch about something. This is what I'm gonna bitch about it. Bitch about get the fight done.